Thanks for checking out the Iceline trekking poles. The Iceline trekking poles are a premium ultralight trekking pole that use efficient design to advance what's possible. So normally with an ultralight trekking pole, what you're going to have is fairly weaker tubing and reduced functionality to lower the weight. With the Iceline poles, we're taking a different approach and saving weight through efficient design so that we can make a trekking pole that is remarkably sturdy and yet is literally the world's lightest adjustable trekking pole at just 135 grams. Let's check them out. So the core concept with the Iceline poles is that you want a three-piece pole for hiking and backpacking because you want to be able to store it on the side of your backpack. If it's a two-piece pole or a long fixed-length pole, it doesn't store conveniently. So you want a three-piece pole, but what you don't want yet is found on, I think, every other three-piece pole on the market is dual adjusters. Having dual adjusters on a pole is not just unnecessary because you can get more than enough adjustment range from a single adjuster, but it's actually a negative because having that second adjuster adds weight, complexity, potential to slip, and if you do want to set your poles to a certain length for your shelter or because that's where you like them, now you've got two different adjusters you have to pay attention to achieve that. So with the Iceline poles, we're using what I think is a different fundamental approach, which is to replace this lower adjuster with a simpler, lighter, more reliable quick connect mechanism. It's as simple as popping it apart, putting it back together. In day-to-day use, you just use it like a two-piece pole on the regular upper adjuster, but if you do want to pack it away, you've got that disconnect mechanism to pack it real short. In addition to this more efficient fundamental approach, the Iceline poles also have all sorts of other ways that we've saved weight without reducing the strength and function of the pole. For example, we've looked at how tight the grip fits so that we can actually use less glue to put it on. There's actually a surprising amount of glue in putting on a trekking pole grip. We've also used a lighter integrated tip design here to save grams, and even the finish of the poles is this beautiful matte finish that actually saves a decent bit of weight in lacquer compared to a glossy pole. As a result, we've been able to save enough unnecessary weight that we've been able to make these poles be remarkably sturdy and with a nicer external adjustment while still being the world's lightest adjustable trekking poles at just 135 grams. So the Iceline poles really are this complete package of being remarkably sturdy with external adjustment and yet just this crazy lightweight that makes them a joy to use on the trail. When people pick these up, it's just like, wow, there's something special. They're so light, it's really cool. So next, let's take a look at how sturdy these poles are. So the Iceline poles are remarkably sturdy for a lightweight trekking pole. They're not an unbreakable pole that you can use for pole vaulting and towing your car, but they are quite good for a lightweight trekking pole. It's going to be a sturdy pole that you can rely on for hiking and backpacking. Now there are several reasons for that. The first reason is that we're using a premium high-strength carbon to build these poles. The second reason is that we're using larger diameter tubing because a larger diameter tubing can be both stronger and lighter. It's more structurally efficient. So the upper section here is 18 millimeters, whereas normally it's going to be a 14 to 16 millimeter diameter. And the middle and lower sections are 16 millimeters, whereas more typically they'd be 12 to 14. In particular, what really stands out here is the lower section because this is typically where a hiking pole is going to break near the bottom. And with a typical telescoping pole, that section is going to be the skinniest. So you've got the weakest tubing in the most vulnerable part of the pole. Whereas with these poles, because they're not telescoping, we can use the same 16 millimeter diameter tubing for both sections, and that makes them stronger where you need it most. So to illustrate the stiffness of the Iceline poles, we can compare them to a typical lightweight hiking pole. So here we have another lightweight hiking pole from a major brand. Doesn't really matter too much what it is. It's just an example of a pole from a major company that's a lightweight pole. And right away you can see that it's actually quite a bit thinner. So this pole is 170 grams, this pole is only 135, so our pole is quite a bit lighter, yet uses 18 millimeter compared to 16 up top, and then we've got 16 compared to 12 down below. So the strength where you need it down the lower parts of the pole is quite a bit stronger on our pole due to that larger diameter. So now to illustrate how this pole here is stiffer, we can do a flex comparison. We just set the two poles over an equal span, similar length poles. Put one more of our Iceline poles here just as kind of a baseline comparison, and then we'll hang the same weight off both poles and then see how much these two poles deflect. So when we do this, I'm going to hang about 10 pounds here off the shared poles, and you can see that with these cords in the middle, Our pull is going to have about half as much deflection as the other pull, indicating that it is a stiffer, sturdier pull that's going to be nicer to use and feel less flexy on the trail. Overall, I think the Iceline pulls are the best ultralight trekking poles on the market today because they are remarkably sturdy, they have this external adjustment, and they're the world's lightest adjustable trekking poles at 135 grams. What matters for you though isn't the specs on the spec sheet, but how it improves your hiking experience. Having these poles be sturdy makes them nicer to use and a lower chance of breakage. The external adjusters are more reliable and easier to use, and then having them be the world's lightest poles just makes them an absolute pleasure to use on the trail. They're hardly noticeable. It's really cool. So overall, I just thank you for checking them out and wish you the best on your hikes this year.